Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name is Daniel, and today I want to talk about the Marburg virus. Now, before we jump into it, I do want to say that I'm not attempting to spread FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or any misinformation, right? Been doing as much research as I can, and I wanted to share what I've found. So everything I'm giving you is from places like CDC, the European CDC, or ECDC, National Institute of Health, and some sites, some supplemental information that might surprise you. Sites like military.com may not be scientific fact, but it is published and relatively undisputed information. So once again, not trying to spread FUD, right? I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, but I know there's a lot of people talking about Marburg virus. It is 2023, so maybe anything is possible, right? There's a couple months left in the year, and the bingo cards aren't complete yet. And certainly Marburg, as I said, there's something people are talking about, people are thinking about. So I want to dig in here. Some of the stuff I'm going to read direct. I've got some direct quotes so I don't misquote. I didn't want to go too deeply technical, and I may mispronounce some of the words, right? So I want to throw that out there right off the bat. So the first thing I'm going to jump in is from the ECDC, the European CDC, fact sheet about Marburg virus disease. And the first question is, what is the Marburg virus? So it says Marburg viruses are filamentous, enveloped, single-stranded, negative sense RNA viruses that belong to the family Viralidae genus Marburg virus. There's a single species Marburg virus that includes two viruses, Marburg and Raven virus, with approximately 20% genetic divergence. So I'm going to pause there for a second on 2 points there. One is RNA virus, and I think that's got everybody a little freaked out. Just based on the last couple years, we're all tired of hearing about RNA, right? Certainly tired of hearing about RNA, and that might have people a little freaked out, right? What do you mean RNA virus? So I did some research. There are RNA viruses. This is not the only RNA virus. There are about 180 RNA viruses. So that in and of itself may not necessarily mean anything. I'm not going to go too deep into that. As I said, I know people are worried about RNA right now, and hearing that Marburg is an RNA virus is like a little concerning. Now, the second thing that really jumped out of that for me is the Raven virus, RAVN or RAVV, Raven virus. So there's two viruses that cause the Marburg disease. One is the Marburg virus, the other is the Raven virus. Those have a genetic divergence. Now, within the Marburg virus, there's different variations of that, just like there's different variations of the flu. I'm going to dig into the Raven virus, but this is the first I've heard of it, and it was on the European CDC site. Maybe they're better than ours, I don't know. Surprisingly little information about the Raven virus, and I'm not going to go too much. Let me keep going here. I'll jump back into Raven. So said beyond that, essentially what we're seeing is there are two distinct viruses that can cause Marburg disease. So MARV, RAVV, both cause the Marburg disease, and Marburg disease is what kills you, right? It's not the virus causes the disease. You get the virus through the RNA. So what is MARV? MARV is classified as a risk group 4, which is the highest level I checked, RG4 pathogen, and requires stringent containment and barrier protection measures for laboratory personnel, as well as for anyone caring for potentially infected patients or diseased bodies. It's no joke, right? It's the highest level virus out there, and some of the things I've seen says the kill rate's like 83%, right? So once again, it's no joke. It's a deadly virus. So then, if that's the Marburg virus, what's the Raven virus, and where'd that come from? And good luck Googling it. Seriously, there's hardly anything out there. The Raven virus is a close relative of the Marburg virus. RAVV causes Marburg virus disease, is a type of hemorrhagic fever in humans and non-human primates. So once you've got the Marburg disease, MVD, it doesn't matter where you got it from, right? They're all the same. At the end, you get you get the MARV, or you get the Raven, and that gives you the Marburg disease. So once you have the disease, you have the disease, and there's no real differentiation between the two. So the Raven virus was first detected in 1987 and is named after a 15-year-old Danish boy who fell ill and died from it. RAVV is a World Health Organization risk group for pathogen, requires containment equivalent to biosafety level 4, a National Institute of Health, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease category. It is a priority pathogen and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention category A bioterrorism agent. Is listed as an export-controlled biological agent by the Australia Group, which I think is great. We probably shouldn't be exporting it, but it is listed as a bioterrorism agent, which is a little concerning considering you can't really find much about it. I was looking for stuff like how does RAV transmit? I was trying to find anything I could other than it's a bioterrorism agent that causes the Marburg disease. I'm coming up blank here, guys, but I'm going to keep going, right? So Marburg disease, once you've had the virus, you get the disease. Marburg virus disease is a rare but severe hemorrhagic fever that affects people and non-human primates, right? So it is zoonotic and an RNA virus, which I don't know about you guys. I've had enough zoonotic RNA viruses for a lifetime, right? Looking back at the last 3 years, that was all about zoonotic RNA viruses. And here's another one. So where did it come from? Where did the Marburg part of the Marburg virus come from? Marburg virus was first recognized in 1967 when simultaneous outbreaks of hemorrhagic fever occurred in laboratories in Marburg and Frankfurt, Germany, and Belgrade, Yugoslavia, now Serbia. So they were examining sick animals in the lab and it blew up, right? People got infected. They didn't know what it was. They infected other people. 31 people became ill, 7 deaths. Right, they were exposed to Ugandan imported African green monkeys or their tissues while conducting research. So people got sick, they got other people sick, 7 people died. Now, if you have 31 people sick and 7 deaths, that's not 83%. It's a lower death rate. I'm going to say very low. Certainly always more than 1 is bad, and even 1's not so great. But when you look in the wild, it's more like 83%. So that would be a lot more than 7. So how's it spread normally? And I added the word normally there because I want to get into that. There's some more stuff in here that maybe not normally, right? So bats in caves. I'm just going to say bats in caves, right? The Egyptian Rosetta bat, Rosetta's whatever, and a cave-dwelling bat that is found widely across Africa and the animal reservoir, right? So the bats lives in caves. People go in caves. They get infected by Marburg. They take it home. They infect other people, and then it goes until it's stomped out, and we come in hard to stomp it out. They shut everything down, right? And it's not just people hanging out in caves for fun. It's miners and things like that. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, why don't we stop going in bat caves, right? People are trying to mine. They're trying to make a living digging up maybe lithium so you can get your electric batteries, whatever they're getting out of the caves. I don't really know. They get the virus from the bats, right? So they have to go in the caves. That's their job. Now, something interesting is they don't really know how it spreads from bats to people. So that was kind of an odd one, right? We don't know exactly how it spreads from bats to people. We know how it spreads between people. It's, can develop serious disease, high mortality, right? So there are only 2 animals known. It's zoonotic, which means it can go from animals to people, but we really only know of 2 animals that'll actually carry the virus, which is bats or the primates, so things like monkeys, right? Most commonly is you get it from bats. I don't think people spend a lot of time around monkeys. Most outbreaks have started with male mine workers in bat-infested mines. The virus spreads within their families and communities and among healthcare staff. So one person gets sick, they take it home and they get everybody else sick. So cases of MVD, which is the Marburg disease, that's the part that kills you, have occurred outside Africa but are infrequent, right? There's not a lot of cases outside Africa. Mostly it's the people in the mines or people in contact with the people in the mines. There have been a few tourists that have been infected over history, but they started out in the back caves in Uganda and then they took it home and they got sick. All right, so that's the normal transmission methods, and I want to focus on normal there, I said, because I'm going to talk about maybe some not so normal transmissions. So, how do you catch it? How do you catch Marburg? Obviously, you don't want to. I don't want to. Nobody should. It's very horrible. So it's not naturally, and I added the word naturally, an airborne disease, and is considered to be contagious before symptoms, not considered not to be contagious, sorry, I need to be able to speak here, before symptoms appear. So not contagious until you have symptoms. It requires direct contact with blood and other bodily fluids of infected people or animals, indirect contact with contaminated surfaces and materials like clothing, bedding, medical equipment. So I did look into a little bit about the direct contact with other bodily fluids, and even a sneeze, right? If you get the sneeze wrong, then you could contract it that way, right? So it is possible to spread. It doesn't spread very well, which is why we don't have a lot of infections to date. It's also very lethal. So once you get it, you're pretty much done for 83%, I think. And there is no approved vaccine for MVD. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, hey, when do I get the vaccine? Well, we don't have one. So for those vaccine folks, you're going to have to wait. Transmission, so most of it, as I said, bat-infested mines. We'll get through that. All right. So can it be weaponized, right? That's a serious question. You know, we've been hearing a lot. The term gain-of-function research has been very popular the last few years. What about Marburg? Can it be weaponized? So if you go on military.com, which I understand is maybe not the most scientific site out there, look up 6 deadly bioweapons. Number 5 is Marburg hemorrhagic fever. It says Marburg virus is in the same family as the Ebola virus. It's important to note that Marburg virus is a Class A bioweapon agent, meaning it can be isolated from African fruit bats and turned into a weapon. It also says the Soviet Union weaponized Marburg virus in an aerosol form and noted its mortality rate could be as high as 90%. So based on that website, and I have no way to verify, confirm, deny, certainly let me know, it's already been weaponized, right? So maybe that's one of the things that's got people on edge right now is you have a virus that's incredibly lethal, and it's already been weaponized as far as we know. So it's not a question of can it be weaponized, is it's already been weaponized, and it is listed as a Class A bioweapon. Right, so that's a little scary. That was number 5 on the list. Number 6 was Ebola, which is also horrible. There was an Ebola outbreak years ago and it freaked everyone out. So according to the National Library of Medicine, the Marburg is one of the most deadly human pathogen, right? So this is where you get your disparity, and maybe everyone needs to calm down a little bit, take the mask off, right? The body count is low, so you've got the most deadly human pathogen, or one of. There's only been 452 confirmed cases and 368 documented deaths, which is very small. That's not a lot of people. It's still horrible, but it's not a lot of people. And it says there's reason to assume actual numbers may be higher. People maybe died and we didn't know. So we have something highly deadly that has been weaponized in the past, that's classified as a bioweapon, hasn't really killed a lot of people yet, right? 368 people, all things considered, is not a lot. I mean, you're talking shark attack kind of numbers here, right? Not a lot of people, nothing against sharks. Sharks are all right. So let's keep going. This gets interesting, right? So what are the symptoms of the Marburg virus disease? Symptoms of Marburg virus happen in 2 phases, or Marburg, right? It just says Marburg added virus. We're talking about the disease at this point. 2 phases. Important to know the phases, right? The first phase of symptoms lasts 5 to 7 days, and also the incubation period was about 10 days. So if we all got Marburg virus, say, just picking something at random October 4th, you wouldn't know for maybe 10 days, right? Just to throw something at random. I'm not saying we're all going to get that or why we would, right? But if you happen to get Marburg virus, you're not going to know right away. You're not going to fall on the ground with your eyes bleeding day 1. there is an incubation period, and you're not contagious during the incubation period. But it does happen in two phases, right? The first phase, the symptoms last 5 to 7 days, include fever, chills, severe headache, cough, muscle or joint pain, sore throat, and rash. Now, the cough is concerning because, as we said, it can spread through bodily fluids, and I read that might include coughing. So you could have a cough in 10 days after getting infected, not know you have Marburg, and go around coughing on people, right? And that could last about a week. So after that, you might have a little better. You might feel a little better for a day or two. Then additional symptoms start. The second phase of symptoms can include abdominal or chest pain, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, unintended weight loss, bloody poop or vomit, bleeding from your nose, mouth, or eyes, and list some other parts, and then confusion. All that's bad, right? Anything that includes bleeding from the eyes, I'm right out, right? We're not interested in that. Bleeding from your nose, your mouth, your eyes, other body parts, other holes, bleeding from everywhere. And then I've read stage 4 is convalescence. Basically, your body just kind of falls apart and it's all bad. So how do you protect yourself, right? How do you protect yourself for this? Well, number one, most obvious, just like you protect yourself from sharks by not going in the ocean, don't go into bat caves or mines in sub-Saharan Africa, right? That's number one, certainly the most obvious. Right, so we'll move on. Number 2, avoid direct contact. This could be important with the blood and other bodily fluids of infected people and animals, or indirect contact with contaminated surfaces and materials like clothing, bedding, and medical equipment. Right, so avoiding contact with any of the bodily fluids, any of the medical equipment, any of that's probably your actual number one way to prevent becoming infected, right? It said it hasn't spread about the U.S., but if it did, so hypothetically at some point in the future and someone had it, you avoid them, right? A little quarantine, a little self-quarantine is probably your best hope, as you would see in any apocalypse movie where they have a viral pandemic. Unfortunately, we're back on quarantine and lockdowns, and everyone loves lockdowns. So what about number 3, right? What if it's aerosol? And what if it's weaponized, right? Sounds like it was weaponized at one point. That becomes a lot more difficult, right? How do you protect yourself from an aerosol weaponized virus that's going to kill everybody? And I don't know is the answer on that one, right? I said not trying to spread fear, FUD, or anything like that. I could be completely wrong here, right? I think wash your hands. Maybe wash your hands is a good place to start. Certainly important to be aware of what Marburg virus is. Something I was going to throw out there, and I think I'm wrong on this one. If you go to taiclone.com, taiclone.com, quality guaranteed, TCIP 3050, you can buy recumbent RAVN, Raven virus, glycoprotein. Now it says minus the Mucin domain, GPA MUC, which might be a good thing, for $527. Right, $527. It says recumbent purified RAVV, which is the Raven virus protein with strep tag, is produced in stably transfected dysphoric Schneider 2 cells and is purified by FPLC within the species Marburg virus. Contains 2 virus types, Marburg virus, MARV, and RAVV, which is Raven virus. Raven is close relative to the much more commonly known MARV. Research areas virology. Concentration supplied in PBS pH 7.4, supplemented with arginine glucamic acid glycol at a concentration of 1.2 for 7 milligrams. Storage instructions 2 to 3 weeks, minus 20 degrees centigrade long term is recommended to dispense single-use aliquots. So there's some more there, but apparently you can buy a sample of the Raven virus for $527. I'm going to assume it's not what it appears to be or what I might think it is. Maybe it's some sterilized version of the virus for research. I'm just going to assume that because it would be pretty terrifying if you can actually buy this stuff online. But once again, searching for Raven virus doesn't get you a lot except a place where you can buy it. So once again, I'm not saying everyone panic, not trying to spread fear or uncertainty or doubt, just offering information, education, I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns around Marburg virus, and this hopefully at least helps answer some of those. I might ask more questions when you look at the video. If you do, reach out, right? Leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are. As always, guys, we appreciate you for watching, and thank you.